What's happening?
Sorry about that, folks. Also, now my video's not showing up, but last time it was just kind of laggy, so maybe that's also the case right now, because it's perfectly fine in the Twitch pop-out. Like, beautiful camera. Not so much there. Why is it? I don't understand. Alicia webcam?
Oh, Science is here. Hey, Science.
Yeah. They're also live, so I doubt they're gonna reply, but
Got it, got it, got it.
why is this why am I not alive?
Why is everything... Oh, wait. Why is it always... Why always tech issues?
I just don't understand why it's doing that. Chatty chat. Hefero, thank you for the hydrate. You can't see me, but you might be able to hear me, and I'm drinking some water. So okay, for real though. What are we gonna do about this camera thing? I really wish.
I mean, it's... Yeah, I mean, it's the same. Like, I can see you. It's not great quality, obviously. It's still a Russian potato, but,
But
like...
like the actual stream isn't showing me for some reason. Ugh.
Your stream.
That's correct.
My stream is showing you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shut the front door. Hold on. Hold, please. Do I like this? It is. What the fuck? Why is it not showing me on my own goddamn stream?
Okay. Are you're using...
Am I high?
Are you using Streamlabs?
Yeah. I'm using the
Okay,
exact same thing as always.
so
oh, there I am. It's just a big delay this time.
Oh, you are... Aha! There you are!
Broadcasting live from a banana.
So it has every time we come on, it's gonna have to be a different fruit.
Yeah, what have I done? A potato, yucca fruit. Is yucca a fruit? Yucca root? Yucca
I think
plant?
it's a fruit.
Yucca fruit?
Yucca something.
Fruit. Does it look really nasty? Looks pretty bad. Okay, well, live, learn,
laugh,
love.
die.
I don't. Yeah, all of the above. I think if I turn it to the higher quality, that it looks nicer, but then it goes like potato mode later for some reason. So it should look better right now because I just turned the quality up, but then it gives me the little warning being like network issues detected, and I'm like not here for it.
Yeah, see, you're like cutting out, so that's like definitely.
Oh, great. Okay,
no, that was because you turned the thing up, I think, but you're fine. It was temporary. Oh, I need to change. Can I change my stream info? I did not do that in advance.
Oh, yours still says stuff about
last week.
That's all right. I think you can change it on the fly, so
let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, so welcome in, folks. I hope that we have some men or male identifying folks in chat today. Not that we don't want to hear from women and women identifying and non-binary folks, but particularly because we're talking about the loneliness epidemic, and because there's such a kind of spotlight on the male loneliness epidemic, we're going to be talking about that as well, and, you know, maybe touching on why certain aspects of the loneliness epidemic are applying or seeming to apply more strongly to men than to women. And yeah, I think it'll make for some lively discussions. Yeah, that's more or less what I have to say for like the preface part of it. There I go. Now I'm coming to you from a grape.
Just one, not a bunch of them, just the one grape.
Yeah, just one grape. No. Oh, it's so bad. Why? Like, this can't go on like this. I just simply don't understand it.
I think you might need to invest in a different camera, bro. I know you.
It's not the camera though, because the camera quality is completely fine on the Streamlabs or on the Twitch pop out. It's just shitty on the in slobs, and it says network issues.
Okay. Yeah,
like I can see two of my cameras. One of them I'm like 4x4 pixels. The other one I'm HD as shit. So, and it does say network issues detected every time. But we have the highest internet that Optimum, whatever. Maybe we need to get a different one, but it's pretty brutal. I don't understand. maybe.
Sorry.
Well, I'm going to try maybe doing just my webcam. Would that work?
That is in fact working. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, sorry for the constant tech issues, folks.
Tech issues, as always.
Yeah.
No, so I guess the reason we wanted to do this topic is because it's like obviously very topical right now. I think I watched the Louis Theroux Netflix documentary
Mm-hmm.
about the Manosphere and pair that with the previous Netflix TV show called Adolescence.
Oh my
And I
God.
think it
So good.
paints a really scary picture for like young men during our time. And being like a parent of a young man during this like time that we're living in. Yeah, you're like 8-bit right now, Alicia. Is crazy. um
Well, this is
but it,
fun. I'm a black box on mine, so
oh
everything's
geez.
great.
Okay.
Everything's
Okay.
really fucking great.
So yeah, I mean, what were you when you watched both of those, Alicia? How did you feel about like those like those
Well,
pieces?
adolescence was far more, I think, affecting for me. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was because of the seriousness of it and how well acted it was by that kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and everybody in the show, frankly, I thought that
Yeah.
that was better than the Manosphere documentary. We talked a little bit offline about this when we were together
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks ago, but for the Manosphere documentary, I think I went in wanting something different than what it was prepared to kind of deliver. And I do like it for what it was in that it kind of just shows documentarian style,
Mm-hmm.
like exactly what these people are doing with like very little editing and very little kind of I guess framing and forcing of a narrative kind of thing. They just let themselves paint themselves as these full
Yes.
idiots, which is nice in one regard because it shows just how little you need to do to reveal how much of a
Like
ding dong
fake,
these people.
false this stuff is. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I also think that what we lack right now is kind of the commentary saying, like, hey, here's why this matters. Here's why we should care about, the manosphere being a thing. Here's why we should care about the fact that this exists instead of just writing it off as like, well, some people are idiots kind of thing, like pointing
Yeah.
out the type of harm. And that's where the adolescence thing comes in. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I didn't even think about adolescence as like a thing because it's like fake, but it's based on real
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah. I
mean?
mean, it's exactly. It's like it's a fictional like show, but no,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like I think yeah, the pairing of those two things together is like what's really scary in my opinion. And um yeah, so like a little bit of spoilers essentially in
Yeah.
that Adolescence is about a 13-year it's a 4 episode series. Artistically it's also really interesting. All 4 episodes are filmed in one shot, so if you love like an
Are they? I didn't
interesting
even
sort.
catch that.
Yes. So like yeah, each one is its own shot. And really cool like I had to look up what type of camera they were using because they would sometimes go from like a handheld shaky cam and then like 5 minutes later the camera would be like on a drone and I was like how did they do that so seamlessly? So
Wow. Yeah,
really
that's
like cool.
impressive.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, if
good
you're
technical
interested.
work if you're into
Yes,
like the
yeah.
film arts kind of thing.
Exactly. If you're into like the film like that, those kind of like film aspects, that's also just like a really cool reason to watch it. But it's about a 13-year-old kid who has I mean, they pretty much confirm it at the end of episode 1. Spoiler alert,
Yeah.
that he kills one of his classmates and they explore like why that happened. And there's a very episode 3 is a very intense interview with a clinical psychologist where
Mm-hmm.
she kind of explores
Why
like
he's like that?
his thinking process exactly and
Yeah.
like essentially it's like did he understand what he was doing was wrong, right? Because this is how you kind of suss out what kind of charges to bring. Was it an act of passion? Was it planned?
Yeah.
Was it an act of insanity, right?
Yeah,
And
of course.
through that, we get this sort of underlying message of red pill philosophy. And do we want to like talk a little bit about what like red pilling is briefly, Alicia?
I mean, yes, I think we should. I think we should. I don't know that I have a tidy definition for it, if I'm being honest, because like it's so easy for me to just go to this idea that it's idiotic. Like it's when morons think that, you know, they have either their eyes open to the real reality that is, you know, the number of high quality women that are looking, the 20%, no, 80% of women are looking for 20% of men. So you've got to fight your way and show dominance on all of this. And it's stuff that I find preposterous. So it's hard for me to be objective, even though I'm trying to be scientific about the thing. But what does the internet say that red pill is?
So it specifically says that it's an ideology often found online in the manosphere, and it's based in the Matrix, right? So it's like red pill versus blue pill. We know that. And yeah, it reveals an uncomfortable truth, whereas a blue pill maintains a comfortable illusion.
Sure.
And the core beliefs are that men are disadvantaged, patriarchy is a myth, and women use their manipulative female wiles to control relationships
Oh
in
my God, I
society.
love that. I love that they like will give us enough credit to be like they use those feminine wiles, but they're not smart enough to create anything, name something around us that a woman has created, like they say in the Manosphere documentary. I'm like, which is it? Which is it, honey? Are we so fucking Machiavellian that we're controlling everything you do? Or is it that I can't tie my damn shoelaces? Because you can't have both, honey. Like, stop.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, in adolescence shows, and then like the fourth episode in Adolescence is about how the parents are like, we had no control. They essentially like, by letting him have a computer in his bedroom, they're like, we created a monster and like we had no control over this. And so it's very scary to realize that like, no, you really have no control over like what your children are consuming online. And there's a lot of like, you see a lot of like internet creators will kind of do an exploration. I don't know if there's been any formal studies. I think there actually might be some out there, and we can go look for them.
On which? On like having like
on how fast it takes to sort of fall down the social media hole of like
manosphere specifically,
manosphere, like meninism, how quickly those I used to be called meninism, and I feel like it's been like relabeled, but
because that makes me think of Mennonites, like the Amish adjacent culture.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, you know what? I just realized that I never actually finished it because it was pretty uncomfortable to watch. I think we didn't finish the fourth episode when we were watching it because I was like, I don't think I can binge this. It's a lot.
You know why? Probably is because it builds suspense through those those one shots, dude. You feel like sometimes you're like waiting for something to happen.
Yeah,
which it does.
Well, and I mean, coming from like a background that has kind of manipulative, narcissistic abuse in it, you know, content warning for anybody that's experienced that or sensitive to those sorts of things, but it becomes something where you don't necessarily catch that something is making your body have, like, the body keeps the score, you're having a memory of how you felt in these moments, and you don't really realize that it's the media doing it. So it was more of an act of self-care on my behalf to kind of disengage from it. And but I mean, that's a little off topic, but the fact that is reflective of a reality in the world, and that made me go back to a real world example of my own life, of a time that a man was, toxically kind of acting shitty towards me. And probably that was at the beginning of the red pill shit. This was quite a long time ago, but it was when Rogan was first kind of blowing up, and Jordan Peterson hadn't, gone to rehab yet, and people still respected what he had to say and those sorts of things. So Yeah. The
Yeah. And I mean,
genesis.
like, well, yeah, and those are like I don't feel like Joe Rogan isn't like pure manosphere. I think he's just problematic because he platforms a lot of these people, right? And we've talked about that we're like, if you're
Yeah.
into Joe Rogan and you're into like, oh, it's a neutral platform, we're kind of like, okay, well, you're part of the problem. Like we've said that on the podcast
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Um, I think he might be king of the manosphere. I don't know how much
You
I think he's
really?
not the manosphere. I think he is the manosphere. It's one of those
You
things.
think he's at the center of it? Yeah,
No,
okay.
I mean, like, so there's more extreme versions, like the Andrew Tates of the world and stuff like that. But like, to me, I equate it to something like, the far right extremism can be kind of centered around it's rallied around this kind of like non super extreme leader thing in Donald Trump in this case is what I'm thinking of. But he's not the most extreme version, but he is the common rallying point for the much further extreme, and the less extreme still kind of point to that same sort of centralized figure. Whereas like the Andrew Tates, I know people that are red pilled a little bit and they're like, no, Andrew Tate's an asshole. Like I wouldn't go that far, but
Yeah.
they're still deep in manosphere bullshit and, want to blame women for stuff. And those are the people that are like, well, Rogan has a few good points. And I'm like, does he?
Please stop.
Well, also, you can have good points on occasion by chance and still be not good.
Yeah,
Like
that's true. That's true.
that's my
Yeah.
take.
So one of the things that you see sort of, and then so like we have like the Manosphere documentary, obviously we were talking about that Louis Theroux did, and you see it there, you see it in Jordan Peterson, all this stuff is like one of the things that always stands out to me is the moment you mention like Darwinism as a function of like popular culture, I'm like, you're grifting so hard right now because that shit like
Is that
so
what
this
they
is a,
say? I'm so unplugged from this.
oh
They
girl,
say
I'm too plugged in.
tell me the pitch of the
Yeah, I
manosphere's
mean,
Darwinism.
it's like classic, like men are supposed to be warriors and they're
Oh, that
supposed to
okay. I see
spread their
that
seed,
rhetoric.
and then like
Love
women
that.
are
Yeah.
supposed to be the submissive nurturers, blah 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 blah.
I see. And they
Yes,
think that that's Darwinian. Okay.
yes,
Sure.
yes.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Why not
Well,
just make words
I'm
up?
yeah. Well, sir, I maybe am labeling it as Darwinian, right? Because it goes back to it's like this like sociobiological theory, which one of the things that if you work in neuroscience and sociobiology long enough, you hear something referred to as a just so story,
Yeah.
which is where if you have a finding and so you can kind of make up or you can kind of pull in like elements of like historical evolution that we don't necessarily fully understand to try to like make a biological reason for why this thing is.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
I don't know if
it's
you have
one
a
of
good
those
example
like
of that.
things where the rule of parsimony and like which is if there's
Yeah.
a simple explanation for something, it's likely that even if it's like okay, am I able to sip this because I have secretly a ghost lifting up my arm and doing the grasping for me, or is it because I'm able to do that of my own volition? Which of those is more
Yeah.
parsimonious in absence of any like actual proving of a concept kind of thing? You would just lean parsimony because of Occam's razor sort of stuff, right?
Occam's razor, bro. People say that to me a lot, and I like Google it every time, and then I forget exactly what it means. Can you please explain that idiom?
It's just the same sort of thing. It's the rule of parsimony. It's just ascribed to Occam kind of thing. So like whatever the simplest, most straightforward answer is what's true. Kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
It's just in the rule of parsimony, that's the way we apply Occam's razor in science, kind of thing. Right. So they're two sides of the same coin, essentially, is the way I see it. But yeah. So
yeah. I'm trying to think of like what a good example of like a just so story would be.
Meanwhile, let's talk about some of what the Surgeon General's advisory on the epidemic of loneliness says happens when you have loneliness. 29% increase in risk of heart disease, 32% risk increase in stroke, 50% increased risk of developing dementia for older adults, and greater than 60% chance of premature death. You're also, in case all of those weren't scary enough, twice as likely to develop depression. So that's good. These are
Yeah.
all terrible things. But I just thought I'd
I
vamp a little while you were Googling.
I appreciate that. And I think that like that is like a piece of like this manosphere sort of building that has created this house of cards, if I
Yeah.
may say that, that we are relying on sort of individual points of truth, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't all mesh together, right? So what you're saying about loneliness, and that yeah, men are more likely to have suicidal ideation, they are more likely to have a lot of like significant mental health issues, and they're not well addressed, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
toxic masculinity exists, and men like often like push down their emotions and don't
Yeah.
discuss them. Stoicism is valued in society for men, or traditionally it has been. So these are, yeah, men are struggling with their mental health, and they're people can attribute this to a male loneliness epidemic,
Yeah,
essentially.
absolutely. Well, and I mean, let's be clear. I do believe that there is a loneliness crisis right now in the world. That I think that's inalienable. I think that the pandemic definitely caused a lot of
Mm,
elimination of third spaces, and that all of these things are understandable. Whether it's a gendered issue is completely unprovable to me, because I've heard stats that say women are actually more lonely than men. So actually, if we are going to gender it and give it to the ones that have it worse off, technically it should be the women's loneliness epidemic. But because the patriarchy centers around men, that's what happened anyway. But I've also heard
yeah.
people cite statistics, and that's where we have to, as scientists, remember that, sure, maybe men in, Western society or America are more likely to have suicidal ideation, but maybe women are more likely to follow through on suicidal plans or something like that, right? Like you have to couch
Yeah.
these. I don't know if any of that's true. I believe your statistic that you quoted.
I was gonna say, I think women are more likely to have anxiety, and I believe men are more likely to have depressive symptoms. And I
Yeah,
think like those can be two sides of the same coin, right? And it's just that like
absolutely.
women's negative emotions manifest in this way more likely, and because anxiety and depression are obviously very
Right.
similar, and men's manifest in this other way, right?
Here's
So
the other thing. It's possible that we're having the same symptomatology, and because of the way that we're gendered in our upbringing and in our socialization, that
mhm,
it's possible that women are just socialized to deal with those same symptoms better or differently.
differently, yeah.
And maybe that's part of the problem. And I think that's a lot of the complaints that some of the more reasonable men that I've heard from or read about, or seen their takes on the maleness of this. It's less the reasonable ones, let me be very
Hmm.
clear. It's less seeming to me to be about I have it worse than I don't have a good way to fix it that doesn't take away all of the privilege that I'm used to having. So I don't have to
Yeah.
revoke my man card in order to, like, you can be in touch with your feelings and blah, 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 but you don't get to bro down if you're going to be that guy in a lot of spheres, right? And so breaking
Hmm.
down that kind of patriarchal system is something that if you don't engage in that, you're never going to be able to succeed in easily climbing out of this loneliness hole that we all find ourselves in, whereas women are tossing down lifelines and calling each other and checking in, and because again,
Yeah.
we're socialized to do that. We also
Yeah.
are socialized to have community centered care for our children and stuff like that because of the
Hmm.
workforce. So you have like daycares and play dates and stuff like that to try and outsource raising of children, which engenders then social contact, which is the antithesis of loneliness in a lot of cases.
There's a sort of a psychology term that sort of summarizes how like female stress coping. It's like bonding, it's something togetherness. I can't remember exactly what it is now,
Mm.
but it is backed by science that women are more likely to use sort of social bonding to cope with stress.
Yeah,
um
yeah, I believe
and
that.
and I mean, thereby sort of maybe reducing the loneliness of, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
of women overall. But I do think that the loneliness epidemic, that like the male loneliness epidemic as we refer to it, has a lot to do with like trends going on in the US, right? Where
Oh yeah.
anybody I know that's single right now is like, they're like, it's terrible. This like the like it has to do with like, I think men and women are sort of on these two diverging
Mm-hmm.
paths of like conservatism and like progressivism, and
Mm-hmm.
like they're just not dating anymore, and so therefore that loneliness of men who would typically, they're emotionally reliant, like they would be emotionally reliant on their partner, they don't have as many partners anymore, and then they're, therefore it's being labeled as like a
Yeah.
male loneliness epidemic.
I think that's the other thing that is related to that is, sure, you don't have a partner and that might be upsetting,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're in like a heteronormative kind of dynamic, and that you only are seeking out women as a partner, as a man.
Mm-hmm.
But particularly in a lot of those same individuals, they only see the opposite gender or other genders as something, as a romantic or a sexual target, rather than someone that can provide companionship and not be a means to a romantic or a sexual end. And that if you then write off essentially half the world, if we take traditional statistics about half male, half female, which obviously
Yeah.
we know there is fraught with a whole bunch of different gender
Yeah.
issues, but let's just set that aside for now. If you're a guy that's like, I only interact with men as friends and women as possible romantic partners,
Mm-hmm.
potentially to lock in for the future, and assuming some semblance of monogamy or, you know, limited polyamory, then you're telling yourself that the only way that you're going to get companionship, or the only possible way to get companionship from half the world, is through that one specific avenue. So you're automatically literally having your opportunities to not be lonely. Like that
Yeah.
statistically speaking, if you're
Yeah,
only going to
super
be
fair.
friends with men, then is it kind of your own fucking fault that you're lonely? Because
Mm-hmm.
like maybe there are some women that would be willing to be friends with you if you took some accountability and made yourself someone that someone wants to be friends with. Because a lot of the time I know the complaint is, you know, women aren't interested in me. I'm not, like, I try to date and no one's interested in me that way. Maybe just try and be fucking friends with someone. Maybe put the ulterior motives aside.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of sort of this manosphere like indoctrination, and this rhetoric though that is derived
Yeah.
from it, is that women are objectified, right? And so if
Mm-hmm.
you don't see a woman as another human being
Absolutely.
who you can just be friends with, as opposed to somebody who is, you know, you're sexually interested in or romantically interested in, whatever,
Yeah.
then yeah, of course, like you're not going to rely on them as like a friend or an emotional like outlet, like friendly outlet. Yeah. And I also think that it's for a very long time, obviously, like therapy is still like stigmatized in like male circles, and so like talking
Absolutely.
about your emotions is still very stigmatized in male circles, but I think women are more likely, obviously, we, as we said, to talk about their emotions with their friends. And this is kind of where this like, and I saw this a very long time ago on a post, so I don't know, there's not necessarily scientific basis for this, but women are more likely to treat a man the way a man would only treat a romantic partner, right? In the fact that they are expressing their emotions and like sharing things about their life in that way. And I think
Wait,
that's where the
women are
concept of
more likely to treat a man how? I'm
by if a woman sees a man as a friend,
yeah.
as with her other friends, she will like share emotions
I
and I
see.
stuff like that, where men would only do that with a romantic partner. So maybe that's
Right.
sometimes where the disconnect of like friend zoning of like, oh,
Yes.
we've gotten to this level of intimacy where I think that it's
Right.
something
Which is
else,
the type
right?
of intimacy that women have with their friends, gender be damned, but men are like,
Yeah.
well, I don't talk to, like you see that in shows. Dan and I are rewatching Friends, or have been for like a few months or whatever before bed.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount that they like have this male female dichotomy, like Ross and Rachel have their first kiss, and then like Phoebe and Monica get a glass of wine, or like, oh, so tell me how it started. He put his hands in my hair, and like it's clear that they're gonna sit down and have a whole fucking
Yeah.
debrief about this kiss. And then it pans to the guys in the other apartment, like noshing on pizza and drinking beer, and be like, yeah, so then I kissed her. And then they're like, oh, sick. With tongue? Yeah. And then it moves on, and that's played for laughs, which, I mean, at some point it is kind of funny, but the fact that that's like the norm still 30 years later is fucking absolutely bonkers to me.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, it's, we would like to think that we've moved the needle. I don't think we've moved the needle as much as we were,
Yeah. The fact that it seems like men are disadvantaged to men in the manosphere, the fact that that's actually a take that they have when the needle hasn't moved at all from 30 years ago in the way that we characterize male-female interactions and male-female kind of opportunities is bonkers to me, because like, what are they basing this on? Like, truly, what are they basing it on? Show me the facts, Maria.
They said, women are allowed to vote, and therefore we are equal. And feminism was achieved in the 1920s.
Right. Well, so I think that's one of the things that I thought was a really interesting take. So I was listening to this podcast called The Psychology of Your 20s, which I'm not in my 20s and haven't been for a long time, but I had listened to it for the Luck episode because she covered lucky girl syndrome, and is allegedly she's written a book and is some sort of trained something. She has some sort of degrees. In any event, her episode on the male loneliness epidemic, she talks about how there is something that I think it's Susan Sontag called the sexual contract that's implied in patriarchy, which basically goes that women gain access to things through men, historically. Like, we used to not be able to have a credit card until the 80s. We used to not be able to have our own bank account, even renting a car. All of these things have come in our lifetimes. Like, our mothers lived through a time where they weren't allowed to do these things,
have
right?
Those things, yes.
Which is crazy. And so, of course, it was easier back then for a man to get a woman, because in order for a woman to get any sort of her basic needs met, she necessarily had to adhere herself to a man. So when your base needs are needing to be met, you're going to lower the threshold of what you think is acceptable, because frankly, if you don't, you would die or have a much less good quality of life, right? And because those barriers have been removed because of feminism, and that's how I can see how these people blame feminism, because it is kind of feminism's fault that women have more advantage than they used to have. But it's not women's fault for getting the advantage that you now feel as though you have less advantage, because it's not a zero-sum game. Like, we can all have bank accounts. It's just fine. My bank account doesn't take... You don't have less bank account because I have a bank account,
Yeah, I was gonna... you said something in that, like... Yeah, so there's actually... Sean was watching this really interesting... there's I'm just gonna plug something that I have no association with. It's called Philosophy Tube.
I love Philosophy Tube. Sean showed me that too, like years ago. Oh, she's amazing. I absolutely love her. She's so brilliant. She's a sociologist by trade, I want to say. I know she's an actress and like a television producer or a movie producer and stuff too, but I believe she's a trained sociologist.
I think she's a PhD in philosophy or so. Like, maybe sociology, something along. I think it's philosophy actually specifically, but. Yes, just like amazing trans woman who has like some really interesting takes, and like if you're interested in that kind of thing, you should check her out. A casual YouTube think piece. But
she's also on Nebula. I think she's one of the founding people of Nebula. Like, I think she's like a fundamental.
Nebula?
It's like a creator-owned streaming platform that proportionally pays the creators based on the amount of viewership that they bring into the platform. So rather than YouTube giving you views based or like it's just supposed to be a more creator fair platform than something like
Got it.
YouTube. Apparently, I am
So it's
not
maybe less milestone based and more about like
yeah,
actual.
it's
Okay.
if you have, 700 people and the other person has 7,000 people, then they're going to get that ratio more proportion
Mhm.
of the revenue split kind of thing. Like
Got
it's
it.
yeah. Anyways, sorry, continue philosophy
No,
train.
no, no. So there's a really interesting take in one of her videos where she talks about that like the oppression of women is like fundamental to like making capitalism work, right? It was like
Absolutely.
women were being used essentially for their free labor in the home. And
Hmm.
she goes as far as to say that this is like akin to slavery. And I'm like, okay, we're getting into some crazy territory there, but yeah, like
I mean, indentured servitude. I could
yeah,
get on board for like
I mean,
if that's how women gained access to shelter and food,
yeah,
by
like
paying their way by like, raising this man's progeny. Sure.
yes, like historically, right, is like you had children and you like, and that's how you literally survived. And that labor at home, that free labor at home, is how we had this prosperous period or whatever during the
Mm-hmm.
like 60s. We could also attribute that to like the extreme social programs in the US that were going on at that time, because that was like in like the post FDR period where he made significant changes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I don't know if these are.
No,
I
I
don't
know
know.
who FDR is. I
Okay,
know the
I was like, I don't
major
know.
ones.
I mean, he's like a subclass of a major one, but
Is
yeah,
he?
okay.
I thought he no. Teddy Roosevelt's the one that who got one of them. They're both pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, he
Who's
was
the
president
New
during
Deal?
World.
Who did that?
That's FDR
That's
and
FDR. Yeah,
president
we like that
during
guy.
World War II, at the beginning of World War II as well.
Right.
So that's yeah. I mean, yeah, he's like the American Winston Churchill essentially. So,
Right. Okay.
um,
Feel it.
yeah,
Feel it. Feel it.
um,
Feel it.
yeah. So I mean, like, I and people go back to that prosperous period and they say, how do we remodel that? And it's like, I don't think enslaving women is the way to go back and do that. But
Right.
I mean, that I feel like, and I think that that's kind of where the manosphere, and it was, you see it in the documentary, you see that they say, oh, like it's difficult for men to get a job, it's difficult for them to like achieve something in this, like, especially, and I mean, AI is taking jobs,
Yeah.
the job market is one of the worst situations it's ever been. But instead of saying, they go like just so close, they get so close to like the truth of like,
Yeah.
we need reform, we need like social programs and like something to support. They say no, 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 no.
We
You
gotta
and
oppress someone. Someone
yes,
gotta get oppressed.
and what they say, they're, it's almost like they're like, it's proto enslavement of men is what they promote. They say you only, like, one of the things that's a quote from that Manosphere documentary is, you only make yourself valuable, you only gain value in this world by making yourself valuable to another man. And it's like, okay, so like your male servitude is how you gain value in this world. And I'm like, how are we helping anybody? How are we helping anybody?
I just simply can't see how it's enjoyable at all to engage in this. Like I do understand that like they are selling kind of a motivational speaker thing, like from the clips that I saw in the
Yes.
Manosphere thing, they're saying like you got to go out there and be the master of your own destiny. Like it's that sort of
Yes.
rhetoric, which at
Yes.
the surface really isn't particularly harmful. Right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm saying like, okay, young scientists, you guys have to go out there, you have to cold email people and say, hey, I want to work in your lab.
Yeah.
That's all
Grind
true.
set. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Grind set, whatever. That is a necessity of the capitalistic culture that we have and the job culture and all that you mentioned. Where it starts to kind of like veer into the women hating is where I can't quite connect. And maybe it's because I haven't consumed any of this media willfully, to be clear.
Yeah.
But I just, it seems to me like there is a lot of milady sort of folks that are ready to jump on and say, I've been trying that. I've been trying that. Where's the disconnect? And then the answer then becomes, well, if women aren't interested in you, it's because, they're our enemy kind of thing. Like,
Yeah,
you're not going to get women interested because women have changed. It's different, blah, blah, blah. You got to find yourself a girl that's, but that doesn't exist anymore. So then it just shoves those people more into a corner, thus loneliness epidemic, right?
yes, exactly. Like that's pretty much exactly it. Like it's built in the system right now where we're having to blame oppressed groups for what's going on instead of looking at the top and looking at these
Mm-hmm.
grifters driving Lamborghinis who are causing these problems, who are taking your money, who
Yeah.
are, if they're billionaires or they're like whatever, that are taking advantage of the system,
Yeah.
as opposed to, so we're gonna say, oh no, it's like women trying to, climb up to the same level as men is the issue, right? We have to
Yeah.
point fingers somewhere, and so it becomes an issue of, if you want to be regressive, you have to say women have to also be repressed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And then yeah, and
One of
especially
the
because it's, yeah,
sorry, you
sorry,
go.
continue. No, I was just saying it, especially if it's going to be like in this like, it's like it's incel capitalism essentially, right? It's like where these two things like meet, and it's, if it's
If
based
you
inside this
can't
guy.
get off, get angry, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
essentially, yes, exact. That's kind of it. Like, and it's like, why? Who do we blame for why we're angry and lonely?
yeah.
It's, they're gonna say women, right? Because women aren't like having sex with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. When I was talking earlier about this
Mhm.
to Dan, and then like I've talked to a few other men in my life, my father and stuff like that. And one of the questions that I had that's just kind of like, I don't have a good answer for it,
Yeah.
is like, say the Andrew Tates of the world, the more extreme versions of this. Are they savable? Because like I have a bunch of stuff in my notes that are like action items for changing loneliness, things that you can engage in other than go and make some friends, that are going
Mhm.
to potentially alleviate loneliness enough that you can then start kind of generating a bit of momentum towards a true companionship,
Mhm.
and friendship level intimacy or beyond with people in your peer group, or create a peer group, whatever, right? But
Mhm.
are these more extreme versions, is there anything that could save them? Is there any intervention that could bring them back from that level of extreme, or have they committed to the bit so hard that there's no saving it? Have they bought into this ideology so much that even if you sat them down and truly got them to listen, and got Dr. Mike to debunk a bunch of stuff on some Jubilee video or whatever,
Mhm.
would there be anything that would get through to them? And if so, what would that thing be? Like, how do we, as women and people outside and men outside of this manosphere that want that to decrease, what do we do?
Yeah, so I actually looked this up after the documentary came out, and
Mm-hmm.
there were a couple news articles that explored like how like young men's opinions changed when they watched that, and they realized that like, oh, this is actually like not rooted. Their perceptions changed fairly significantly. Um because they realized that it was all kind of fake and for the camera, right? But it's,
Right.
I think that is curious to me. Like, I think these people that are at the top, who, the Andrew Tates, the, what is it, HS Tiki Talkies, like Harrison, like
Oh, we're the ones from the thing. What was the guy
yeah.
that said like something about the dick in the mouth? The second guy, the one that had the girlfriend that was like cute and pretty, and then by the end she was single and no longer with him. What's his name?
Oh,
It doesn't really matter, but
shit, you're so, yeah, he's like Arab, but he goes by he goes by a pseudonym. I don't remember.
yeah, yeah.
One sec,
Here,
I'll
I'm gonna
just look
look
it up
up
real quick.
Manosphere doc.
Creators.
Um, like simply who is that guy? Influencers. It's too bad that we don't have a little bit more chat going on tonight because, like, honestly, I was hoping that,
Yes.
like, people would be more, like,
Interested.
well, not more interested. I mean, who knows? People might be busy or whatever,
Mhm.
but it's something where, because we're two women,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to perspective take because not only are
Yes,
we
I
women,
agree.
we're feminist killjoy women.
Yeah.
Let's call a
Yeah.
spade, right? So it's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
hard for me to perspective take. It's so hard for me to engage in, like,
yeah.
hey, might that be like beyond just asking the men in my
Well,
life?
so that's the
But
thing. So his name is Myron Gaines,
Myron, yeah,
and
here it is.
that's the thing. So
Myron.
I'm of two minds, right? Either they genuinely truly believe this, and they are so deep in it that it's like become essentially like conspiracy theory mental illness, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they've convinced themselves that this is true. The other, which I don't think any of the people at the top are like that. Yeah. I think all of the people that they like actually, maybe with the exception of Sneeko, because he actually seemed very mentally ill. But
Which
like
one? Which one? Who's he?
that was the one that he went to go see in New York City. Um and
Sneeko?
yeah.
Oh God.
He had like converted to Islam, and it was like saying something like about the end of the world. It seemed like, I think that maybe that is somebody who has like gone down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole.
Okay.
All of the rest of them seem to be using this rhetoric to essentially prom- to make money, essentially to
Yeah.
be problematic, to then get views based on being problematic, to
Mm-hmm.
then tell young men, buy my course so that
Yeah.
you can learn how to be as successful as me, when really they're all just like grifting,
Well,
like
and
these
okay, this is
who are and like these men
yeah.
these young men who are legitimately upset because they probably have limited education, limited
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, and shit sucks right now. Like that's how it be.
So this is a problem that I found I had. Sorry, not a problem I found I had. An issue that I found myself wrestling with as I was going through watching that documentary,
Mhm.
researching for this episode, is it starts to look a little bit like the male version of LuLaRoe leggings or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever skincare thing, and that it's just these men are just as disadvantaged. Like, this sounds terrible to say because I know these men are like living in penthouses and have Lamborghinis,
Mm.
but in a lot of ways it's indicative of this profound starvation of kind of opportunity, and that these are some of like really big victims of capitalism and victims of patriarchy that just happen to have landed in a world where they can kind of make that work and string something together, but really it's a house of cards. Like when Louis Theroux started probing the one guy, like, oh, so you own this place? And he's like, no, no, I rent. And like
Yeah.
even admitting that was kind of like a hit to the ego. And like lots of the other guys, I think it was the HS guy, was saying, oh, I don't believe that, I just say that for the views. Like they even self-admittedly say that they don't endorse these sorts of views. So it seems like there really truly are, I really don't want to call them victims, but a lot of like hurt people kind of is, I guess, what my brain lands on. And
Hmm.
if these people maybe had more support, could we get that back, right? Like, I don't know.
Well,
I
I
keep
mean,
on
he does.
struggling to get to
Yes.
how can we
Well,
prevent these men from doing
yeah.
this shit and
Yeah.
prevent there from being more of them, you
But I
know?
mean, it's like it doesn't exist. They don't exist in a vacuum, right? They
Absolutely.
exist in what is currently like a very toxic,
Yeah.
and it's our political leaders are both bolstering, like feeding and bolstering, and also um then gaining from this
Yeah.
kind of rhetoric and this kind of. So I would say, like, yeah, he Louis Theroux does point out, like, he tries to make them empathetic and say they did lack male like father
Yeah.
figures, they
Yeah.
did. And so maybe that is like this jumping off point that they had to then go down this path.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I don't know, I really think it's like there's only one or two empathetic people in that whole
Yeah.
show.
Well, and it's
But it's I feel like
yeah.
a lot of the rhetoric is to get money or to get away with doing things where, like, for instance, the one guy who wants to he essentially wants to live polyamory, but like say it's like a male flex. And it's like
Yeah.
it's
It's just like, you can
because
just
you
do polyamory. You're
you can
allowed.
just
Like,
do
you can do
it.
that. It really doesn't have to be that. You don't,
It doesn't
it's
have to
not,
be you sowing your seed. It could
it's
just
not,
be
it's not that
polyamory.
deep, son. It's not that deep. Like, just have some
Yeah.
consensual non-monogamy as a treat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please.
So
It's funny though, because like in my research, I did find that loneliness, unsurprisingly, is worse the lower SES you have. So the lower socioeconomic status, if
mm,
you're in poverty, people in the lowest income brackets are significantly more likely to feel lonely than those with higher incomes. Even when they socialize just as frequently, they're still more likely to feel lonely. And I can conceptualize that very easily, because if part of your support network involves institutional community, right? So if you
yes.
don't have a brick and mortar bank and you're going to a payday loan place to cash your check, that's going to feel a lot less, hi, how can I help you, when you walk into TD, than, metal grate in front of the thing. Like, that's going to be 20% if you don't pay it back by Tuesday. Kind of like that
Yeah.
vibe. It's a lot less safe. It's a lot probably more isolating and more lonely. And, they have more pain, they have more fatigue, they have more low mood, all of these, things. And it's really severe if you're in poverty levels, or in the lowest socioeconomic status. And this is like a huge sample. This is like large data kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it's so unsurprising to me. But it
Yeah, I
also
mean,
means that those people are the easiest to be victims of exactly the thing that these motherfuckers are selling.
yeah, they're
So,
exploiting people. They're
yeah.
exploiting like people who are desperate, people who are like and I mean you even see examples in this documentary. Like the documentary does hit on a lot of aspects of it. You see two people, one of them who talks about being like this young man who talks about having been homeless and then sort of
Hmm.
trying to like
Didn't one guy lose his brother to fucking suicide?
yes,
And he's
exactly.
just like, no,
And
it's okay. I just gotta like rise and grind and go for a run on the beach. And he like,
we don't believe in depression. It's like what?
he lived out of his van after losing his brother to suicide. And he's
Yeah.
just like, nah, not sad, bro. Just angry.
Yeah.
Which I think is genuinely, unjokingly, I think is anger is an emotion that men seem to be permitted to have because it is associated with kind of the posturing and toxic masculinity,
Mhm.
sort of the things that are lauded in that culture. But sadness is equated with weakness. So when you have sadness, if you can redirect that to look like anger, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm just going to be angry.
Well, and
Yeah.
in the opposite, sometimes when I'm like, I'm really mad, I'll just cry. And it's like, oh, because I'm actually really sad this is happening. Like, oh,
Yeah.
my boss pissed me off because he told me I couldn't do blah, blah, blah. I'm so mad. And really, I'm just like, he doesn't believe in me, or some bullshit like that. It's the opposite. But yeah.
Sorry, I'm going through my notes and
Me
trying to see if
too.
I can come up with yeah, it is it's I mean it does like the financial situation right now is like not great in the country. Like I empathize with people that are like young men who are genuinely struggling and
Yeah.
I mean our education is also kind of culturally being people are like being devalued essentially and so nobody's like educating themselves. They're
Yeah.
saying okay these social media individuals are going to like teach me what I need to know.
What a DB asks, how do we
Great
feel about
question.
women who subscribe to red pill ideology? Traitor. Motherfucking traitor. No, I'm kidding. I'm a little bit serious, but I'm mostly kidding. That's
I
my
mean,
first blush feelings. How I actually feel is probably a bit deeper than that. What do you think? First
I think
blush.
they're playing themselves. Like
Yeah.
it's the Candace Owens, it's the Pam Bondi, the Christy Nome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of you are going to position yourself as a unique voice in this space, but when push comes to shove,
Yeah.
you are going to be the first in the chopping block.
Yeah, it's the exceptionalism that I think women are lots of women, myself included. I think it's very
Yeah.
hard to not fall victim to this, but it's this exceptionalism that you feel as though, oh, I'm one of the few women that get to do X, that get to be Speaker of the House, get to be whatever it is,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so you're like, okay, I have my foot in the door on behalf of women. I'm in this special spot because I'm unique, I'm exceptional. And who doesn't want to believe that? And in some cases, it might be true. But in order
Yeah.
to maintain that, and even genuinely in my own day to day life, historically and currently, there is a degree of towing the line that one must do when dealing with men, particularly of a certain age and a certain generation, that still have a lot of these gendered views. And am I engaging in like a kindergarten version of the same sort of shit that Pam Bondi and Christy Nome and all that kind of shit were doing by allowing
Yeah.
myself to be like, okay, how do I stay in this spot that was tenuously given to me and historically would have been given to a man? Like, how do I stay there? How do I maintain this like clawed out foothold that we finally have? So I guess all that to say, I have a lot of empathy for these women that thought, I don't know what they think, but I presume thought that they were exceptional and turned out that they were disposable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It also like I mean, you could probably attribute a certain amount of it to like second wave feminist ideology as well. Of
Absolutely.
you have to play the game as well as a man, so you have to blend in.
Absolutely.
You have to not like say your mind when someone says some bullshit about women, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to like
It's the not like other girlisms. It's
yes, like
yeah,
sort of yeah, making your but not a manic pixie dream girl, but like what are they called? Get
a
like
girl
pick me
boss.
energy essentially.
Yes,
Yeah,
pick me energy is
like
huge.
pick me girl boss energy.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's strange because like it makes sense that these people are
Hmm.
potentially really lonely people, right? Like regardless of gender, like if we just kind of zoom back out at like loneliness in general,
Yeah.
adolescents who are lonely are more likely to seek out rewards. Just have it like they have a sharp increase after a social
Yeah.
rejection or after a period of isolation where they're just more reward sensitive. So this is like food, drugs, whatever it is, you name it. You're more reward
Hmm.
sensitive when you've had a resource taken away. And that's where when earlier we were talking about it being Darwinian, it's funny because the way they characterize it as Darwinian, it's fundamentally not true and there's no evidence for. But if you think about the Darwinian aspects of how loneliness can drive this kind of
Yeah.
like desperation, disproportionate salience
Hmm.
ascribed to certain rewards, like if you're hungry, berry gonna look good.
It's always the berry and the tree.
I'm
That group
never
of us.
gonna not try and bring the berry and the tiger.
Always.
I don't
Yeah.
even remember the original one. Every single time I forget it, but I'm just like, I knew there was Barry and a tiger, and it all comes back to that. But
Yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
so going back to Darwinian stuff, I actually
yeah.
found like a really fun article that came out last year, um, which actually points to the
Just the
like the,
media
what I was
article or like a journal article?
this is a PubMed.
Okay.
PubMed. So it's Evolutionary Human Science, I think is the journal. I have it shared here. I don't know if you can see
Okay.
that. Alicia.
Can you pop it in the chat, and then I want to pull
Yeah,
it up.
of course, of course.
Sleepy.
Um, but it essentially points to kind of these just so stories that I was talking about, where
Why can't I?
um, they essentially assembled a collection of lay evolutionary just so stories extracted from manosphere content, and
Okay.
where these are literally, they're like speculative, untested evolutionary
Oops.
hypotheses, like Jordan Peterson, essentially, where Jordan Peterson might actually base it in a grain of actual evolutionary truth. I'm sure that
Sure.
there's a fair amount of it that he's also just making up, right? Like, rat goes like this, the rat and his
I tried to share my
right.
screen and I fucked it. So I'm failing right now. And I'm back to not being on my screen. But that's okay. Please continue.
um but essentially, like, 83.3% of manosphere just so stories pertain to sex differences. So again, we're trying to like push these, like, the sexes apart, whereas there's actually recent evidence that has come out that what even some of the
Mm-hmm.
evolutionary hypotheses that we primarily held, hunter gatherer um
Oh, fuck's sake.
ideas, essentially are were reversed.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind, that science also might have been wrong about the initial parts, and now everything is just being expanded off of wrong
Right.
information.
Okay.
And then 36.3% were explicitly speculative. Given this evidence that lay communities collectively engage in evolutionary hypothesizing, implications for evolutionary scholars and the field. And so, yeah, I think
I'm
the
desperately trying to share my screen and it is not working. I'm giving up.
okay,
If a
okay,
chat, if you
sorry.
want to see what we're talking about, you just go to that link. Anyways, I'm back, but I'm
No,
reading it currently, or looking
yeah,
at it, I should say.
yeah.
Evolutionary
So
hypothesizing. I guess that's the negative thing about evolution is like it's a beautiful explanation for virtually everything
yeah,
if you want to
so
make it that way.
yeah. So for instance, essentially, like, I'll give an example of like what could have been a just so story, essentially. So in
Mm-hmm.
my first year of my PhD, I was doing this study where we were looking at how um, the previous evidence for this was that male mice, no, all mice, female and male, responded negatively to human male, some like specific pheromones. So it was
Okay.
like literally sweat taken from the armpit, and it was like androgen specific ones, and
Okay.
there's only a few compounds that come out of the armpit. So there was evidence for like two of the three compounds, and I was testing this third compound referred to as 3M2H, which I think gives like 3
Sure.
methyl something 2 hydroxy something something. Anyways,
Welcome
and I
in,
think
Lemonster?
L
Lemonster? I don't know what it is. Is it Lemonster or Lemonster? Welcome in. Also, Maud, could you get this spam thing out of here? This cheap views stream thing? Um, anyway, sorry.
uh
Please continue.
yes,
So this
anyways,
pheromone
and
that came from the pits.
yes. And so what we ended up finding with this study was that for this specific phenomena, this specific pheromone, we saw the opposite effect of what we had previously seen, and that it was that like male mice responded with less of a stress response. Can you tell
Layla,
Layla
I'm
that you're
apparently silent in your stream, like I'm muted. I hope it hasn't been
you
that way
sh-
this whole time.
Oh my god, has it been this way though? Oh
Oh no.
no.
Can you check in Vulgar Science?
Oh, is this Ellery? I think this Ellery, is that you?
Are Ellery?
Yeah,
I guess
Ellery.
how many
Maybe.
Elleries do I know? Is this like celery? Um.
How do
Oh
I
no.
desktop?
According to Mod, I am indeed muted on yours.
Shit.
That's okay. Good thing we're co-streaming.
Yeah, seriously. Good thing there's been essentially
Yeah.
nobody here this whole time.
Yeah, the one day we're doing like such a controversial topic, we do like the most mundane shit and it's just like chat blasting off. We do controversial and it's crickets out here. But that's okay. That's why we're going to keep doing this. This probably isn't going to be the last time that we, go after a topic like this or even the same topic. There's lots of research here
Mm-hmm.
to cover. So
Yeah.
Are your
it's
chats combined?
our chats are combined.
Because Ezra Pizza is in her chat, but not in yours.
Oh, that's fine.
I don't know if you are familiar.
Oh, Ezra is here. Oh, hello. I can't hear either, but I think I could on her. Yes, I think I
Has Ezra
just
chatted, or
fixed.
are they just here?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh.
they are. I don't know why the chats
So
aren't combined.
what?
That is a bit weird because, yeah.
I don't see Ezra in here at all, but I mean, I believe you. What's going
Okay,
on
so
with
the sound is
technology at
better
this
now.
current moment?
Yeah, because you shared your chat with me at the beginning, and I was like, this is not the usual setup. Usually I can see more of your stuff, but anyways.
Can you see the chat that I just chatted?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Hi.
usually my chat, maybe my chat isn't usually, I don't know.
But not hers.
Whatever.
But not in hers, so yours isn't shared somehow. That's bizarre. I thought you shared it
That is
right at the
bizarre.
beginning.
I thought so too.
Hmm.
Join shared chat. There we go. I
Oh,
didn't
there we
hit the button.
go. All
I
right.
didn't hit the button.
Where's tech support when you need them? Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyways, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
well,
guys for
welcome
being
in, new
Ezra
people. Thank
Pizza.
you for pointing this out. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And even if you're just lurking, that's all right. So Layla's telling us about Just So stories from the Manosphere and how they like to leverage Just So stories about evolution in a gendered way because that services their ultimate goals. But
Yes, exactly. And like again, so like we were working essentially in a sociobiology lab. Like that is what our former supervisor, a lot of what it was it was like behavioral neuroscience, and the basis for behavioral neuroscience is sociobiology, so like evolutionary psychology,
sure.
evolutionary biology.
Yeah.
And I was doing this like mouse study, and like these or not, sorry, not mice, it was a human equivalent, and we were trying to essentially see how human women and men responded to this like male hormone, and men had like a lower stress response to it, and which was the opposite of what we were expecting to see. And we were
Sure.
like, so essentially like we couldn't come up with a good theory, but like at one point I remember somebody working on the study, a research assistant, proposed that it was like, oh well, maybe like males use this like pheromone or hormone for like bonding when they're like hunting together, and that's like the equivalent of a
Was
just so
that
story.
the undergrad that I think it is?
Yes, almost definitely. And so like you can pretty much say any bullshit about evolution and evolutionary reasoning and maybe possibly get away with it. And like that's what people in the manosphere are doing essentially. Is they're saying, "Oh, well, women have breasts and they have to breastfeed, which means that we should lock them away in a tower while they breastfeed because that's," and then say they used to do that our ancestors used to do that or some bullshit like.
Yeah, we also used to castrate men when they misbehaved, but we're not trying to do that too much anymore, are we? But we could go back there if we want to go fucking back.
Okay, relax.
Sorry. No. Don't go playing with me. Sorry. I don't want to castrate men. I think men are nice sometimes.
I was like, you started with, oh, we really want to hear men's perspective. And then you went, we can go back to castrating men.
I'm just saying, if these men from the Manosphere are like, oh, well, the good old days, I'm like, we can good old days it all you want, but we're going to do it to the teeth to the hilt. You don't get to pick and choose and make me fucking wet nurse your babies. If we're not going to put you in jail when you misbehave. Put you in pee-pee jail.
That's called a chastity.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm fine, for those of you that are wondering. LOL, Neuralicia may have a chip on her shoulder.
just maybe.
Listen,
just maybe.
I don't even know if it's a chip. I think I think I'm tilted. My whole body, I am fucking off kilter and angry at men. Perhaps rightfully so. But that's okay. Worried for your own safety. You're fine. You're fine,
You're
baby.
fine.
The call is coming from inside the house. Hoon, I got Hoon upset. I was yelling so much. Where is she? She's up and walking around like, what, Mom? Who do we need to attack?
Right. Oh my god. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry guys. We do want to hear from every gender perspective, but obviously we were saying earlier that as women, it's hard to perspective take on the male loneliness epidemic because, well, we're not male. So if anybody has anything interesting, yeah.
I mean, we didn't have a significant audience previously, but we were
Yeah.
essentially saying that like the male loneliness epidemic is like a real thing from like the
Mm-hmm.
sort of gendered way in which men and women cope with their negative emotions. Right?
Yeah.
It's women. Oh God, there's literally a cute little term that wraps it up of like we like share our stress and we communicate our stress and we
Yeah.
like social bond to like deal with stress, whereas men often do not like talk about it, and it's like socially unacceptable for men to express their emotions, and therefore they suppress those emotions, and obviously that's going to lead to like higher levels of loneliness. And that, individuals who are higher up in the manosphere who
Mm-hmm.
are essentially trying to monetarily gain money from these people by like trying
Yeah.
to tell them how to like live their lives and have like financial success, and are
Yeah.
just like kind of grifting them.
Well, yeah, it's
um
exploitation, and we were talking about
mhm,
how loneliness affects people in poverty quite a bit more disproportionately than it does people in higher socioeconomic status levels. Um, yeah, we did entertain the question of is there anything that one could do to save the more extreme versions, the Andrew Tates and whatnot, the Manosphere documentary level guys out there that are in having this loneliness epidemic affect them and that sort of thing. And I don't know that we came to a tidy answer because I don't know that there is one.
yeah,
I
I
know
mean,
a lot
I
of people
definitely,
talk about lack of male role models. So I wonder
yeah.
if modeling, having a male role model would be effective.
Yeah, I mean, like, healthy male role models are pretty difficult to find, in my opinion.
T.
Um,
Yeah.
People, because you want somebody who is both emotionally available, has a positive
Mm-hmm.
view of women,
Yeah.
and I mean, like, also is successful in today's like system, and that's like
Yeah.
that's a difficult combo. So, um,
Yeah. I feel like I started when I was thinking about this earlier today. I was at a doctor's
mhm,
appointment, and I was thinking about, okay, number one, do the role models necessarily need to be male? Like, I understand that there is kind of like a gender parity
mhm,
thing and a perspective taking that is impossible to do unless you share gender with someone, but you can still perspective take from like a different point of view. Like, I know what it's
mhm,
like to go through life as I don't know. I'm very few types of disadvantaged, luckily for me. But you as a person of color could identify with someone even if you didn't share gender. You might be able to share some other sort of perspective and be
yeah,
a role model from a peer-to-peer sort of modeling
mhm,
end of things, regardless of gender, right? So I feel like when I was, again, this is the psychology of her 20s person, and I don't know their credentials, but what she was saying is the effectiveness of a peer-to-peer just calling something out, like, hey, that's not cool, hey, that's misogynist, is actually really much more effective than you would think it would be. And it's uncomfortable,
mhm,
but like if
yeah,
someone's saying something that's off base, gender or any other type of problematic, just simply pointing out, like, that's not funny, or that's problematic, or hey, that's not cool, and not laughing along with it
yes,
really deflates the power and acceptability of those sorts of things, because it's almost manipulatively
mhm,
leveraging the exact sort of need to be in with other men that is driving a lot of these people. So if you, as man that is not red pilled, can go and be
mhm,
like, hey, that's not a cool joke to make, or it's not cool to objectify that woman or slap that girl's ass or whatever non-consensually, then it automatically puts that other man's kind of social standing amongst the men under threat, and that can be an effective tool. So I'm like, yes, male role models, need them, hard to find, would love that, but in absence of that being an easily accessible resource, could we just supplant, putting in any modeling and have
Yeah.
that be effective? I
Yeah,
don't know
I
the
mean,
research, but
I think it's difficult because it's like, yeah, I mean, you have to have feminist men do that
yeah.
kind of thing. And again, especially now that like manosphere content is indoctrinating, this is actually the first generation. I've seen scientific evidence of this. I'll go find an article pretty soon to have more traditional, like conservative, first generation of young men to have more conservative traditional values than the generation
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah.
Which, so it's like we're seeing this regression backwards. We're
Isn't that
seeing
true of
this.
women as well, though? No?
No, this
Okay.
is part of the loneliness epidemic. That's why people ain't fucking anymore, because women are
I'm
like,
just
we're
thinking
moving
like trad
faster.
wives and shit like that, right? But I mean, again,
I
old man
mean, there.
felonious. It just dawned on me the naming of what a DB's name. Well, so it's a little jokey joke because that's also their initials. So, oh, there they answered their own question.
What is the meaning?
So what a DB is like, huh, what a douchebag, but it's also
Oh,
his initials. So
is that from the AIM generation? I was not part of that.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll let them speak for themselves. But yeah, it also looks like a piece of anatomy.
That's what I was. Okay, that's what I was like. Is this supposed to
Stop.
be? Is
What
this
a
supposed to be like
dick.
dick and balls?
That's
Yeah, that's
okay.
clever.
I mean,
Yeah, that's actually that. Yeah, when he said that, that's what I thought he was referencing as well.
oh, that's great. Which piece? Oh.
Oh, all it needs is a little hat.
Well, also dick and balls. DB.
Yes,
The
yeah.
layers. We have layers.
There's layers.
It's a 4D fucking screen name. Let's go. Love that. Yeah, okay. So we've talked about some ways that we can potentially do something to help men to prevent that, and maybe do something to reverse some of the effects of this manosphere culture. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm gonna pull up another Darwinism, which is by actually the same author as the previous one, which is really interesting.
Oh, good.
But it's about like these sorry, I'll drop the link for you in a second.
This is worldwide research too. There are researchers from France, the UK, Australia. I love that. Also, we're not falling for it. What a DB. We do have interest in fantasy dragons of the scaled and winged variety, and I shan't be going any further than that. So it's a D's nuts joke.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
And we're not biting. So the innuendo that we could go with, I tried to pick my words carefully, and yet I still in the end
said the word dragon.
Well, no, I also said we're not biting. So I don't know.
I'm screaming. Maybe we are because you're pro castration.
That's not the method I would choose, to be fair. Fuck. We're not pro castration.
Anyways, so like one of the things that these groups do is that they obviously try to like pigeonhole males and females, and say that this is like their evolutionary blah 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 blah. But there's sort of this article is essentially trying to like debunk that and say that like no, that's actually not true at all.
Well, I guess the thing with evolution is it's very hard to prove the evolutionary like adaptive truth, in anyone's lifetimes. Even if you could live 6 lifetimes, you might not be able to prove that. It takes several generations to have something like that happen, right?
Yeah, because I mean, well, we're referencing when we're talking about like evolution, we're talking about like early Homo sapiens or even Neanderthals, right? And we're saying, what the, like, what are they do? What did they do? That's like
Yeah,
too
you
long
want to
ago.
know who I want to model my life after is like guy with club. That's people. Some people have Michael
Yes.
Jordan. Some people, Celine Dion. Me, man with club. Fred Flintstone
Yeah.
up on my wall. Aspirations.
Average lifespan 25 years. Like,
Average lifespan, you dead.
you're dead.
You basic. Um, yeah, I
Hmm.
think, okay, so we've got a solid half hour or so left. So there's
Yeah.
like a decent amount of time to
So,
cover other stuff. But yeah, keep
yeah,
going.
I think so. The three things that I really focused on in this was like the three main sort of like research subjects that I was interested in was like sort of this like misuse and misappropriation of like Darwinian
Yeah.
like evolutionary psychology, right? Which a lot of Darwinism stuff is like people will be like it's survival of the fittest, and it's like no, it's survival of like the best at adapting, right? Like it's misused and mislabeled.
That and also the least weak. It doesn't mean if you survived, you're one of the strongest. It just means you weren't one of the easiest to pick off. Like, it's not
Yes,
all
yeah,
surviving members of species are apex predators. Like, that's just simply not true,
yeah.
right?
But I mean, like, actual Darwinism evolutionary is about like your ability to adapt, right? It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
about being
Yeah,
the buffest in the gym or like whatever. It was about like
right.
how are you adapting with culture? And if we're gonna really look at the loneliness epidemic, if you want to look at it from an evolutionary perspective, like if you're not procreating, it's because you're not adapting, King. Like get with
Right.
the time.
Absolutely. Fail to take accountability for your own, like, if you can't get your dick wet, whose fault? It's not the women's fault. It's certainly not the women's fault. Be better. I'm sorry, be better. Like,
Adapt.
well,
And
and
so
this
there's
is why they fucking believe that 80% of women are interested in 20% of men. I'm like, 20% is generous, folks.
20%. That's really funny. Yeah, so it's like this misappropriation of Darwinism, sort of like the loneliness epidemic itself, right? Like, what are the
Mm-hmm.
structural pieces at play right now? Obviously, there's a lot of it's like politically relevant, highly controversial, and then also the aspects of like what what is actually like what are healthy gender or healthy relationship dynamics, right? Because this sort of
Right.
manosphere thing is that the man is supposed to lead the household and the woman is supposed to stay home, and this the man can have multiple partners for whatever reason. That's kind of like a random extra thing. And I still don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
polyamory is socially acceptable these days, guys. You can do that if you
Yeah,
want to do that.
you're allowed to just do it. It doesn't have to
But
be,
it's
it's
but
not that deep.
it's trying to they're trying to make it a flex, right? Because they're trying to say, oh, the women don't want to have other partners and they don't want to have polyamory. So it's just me. I'm just so yeah. I mean, I'm really referencing the one thing that we saw in
Yeah,
the through
absolutely.
documentary,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I did try to find sort of like what were healthy gender dynamics. Pretty much the summary for both of the all three studies I was able to find were like it's really complex and it's super context dependent. And I
I'm
was like,
so glad
okay,
that the academic circles peer reviewed that. And that
yeah,
gave
I
them
know.
that
I was like
conclusion. Like, great.
super helpful. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah. Thoughts? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess any healthy relationship dynamic, regardless of gender, to
Mm-hmm.
me boils down to communication and um, trust, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, I guess honesty is related to trust, though I don't think that that's necessarily like all out tell the person everything, because sometimes that can
Mm-hmm.
be burdensome, right? And trauma dumping is something that can be detrimental to a relationship or a dynamic. But I think about like what makes our friendship healthy kind of thing. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's something where like when we still lived in the same city, it would be like, we're supposed to hang out. Dude, I am so not in the zone. All I want to do
Mhm.
is stare at a wall and space out to Netflix right now. So can we
Yeah.
reschedule? And not just, oh my God, something came up. Like, we both know individuals that are like that. And we're
Yes.
like, okay,
Yeah.
please, like, just tell it to me straight kind of thing. And, a little bit of that kind of divulging, idea sharing. I think that's clearly a large
Mhm.
basis of our friendship, respectful disagreement. And within that idea sharing and collaboration, I think is something that might not be as obvious for a lot of other kind of relationships. But when you think about like a partnership, like a romantic partnership, if you are
Mhm.
truly like building a life with someone, then you're collaborating on your household. You're collaborating maybe on parenting or pet rearing or, any of those sorts of things. You think about work, a lot of work is collaborative, and the most kind of healthy versions of those things that I have encountered have all been ones that were based on generous interpretations of things, understanding, communication, and a fair exchange back and forth between people, and respectful when disagreements occur, I think.
Yeah. I think so, and I think, like, equality and respect, right? Equity of respect is really important.
Yes, yeah, that's
Um,
a really good
one
point.
of one of the articles. So again, like 2 to 3 articles I found were like, oh, it's like, it's
It's a
very complex
complex.
and it's context dependent, beep bop boop. But one of them that I found, which I think definitely plays back into this male loneliness epidemic, is that, and I will drop the link right now.
Mm,
And I will share my screen. Give
we
me two
love
seconds.
links.
Um, in that it essentially is that this, I believe this was a meta-analysis, multi-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
inventory, but
The
um
marital
it,
inventory enrich. I like it when
yeah,
they name inventories catchy acronyms. That's my favorite.
yeah. So, and it was having women and men rate their marriages based on like aspects of communication, conflict resolution, sexual intimacy, financial management, parenting, and emotional connection. And that men and women rate their marriages differently. And how long ago was this study conducted? This is from
1991. Oh,
1991, right?
girl.
Women, so was that 30 years ago? Well,
Mm.
20,
Almost
no.
40, girl.
Oh my God, that was 36 years ago. Holy shit. Um, that women were more likely to have lower scores of happiness and satisfaction with their relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the result, if they want to blame women, you can blame women un poquito, because 36 years later, women are saying, yeah, I mean, if women are not happy, if I'm not going to be happy in this relationship, why the fuck am I entering it? And now
Right.
because we have independence, because we're not being forced into
Yeah, because
servitude
the sexual contract is no
to
longer
be,
valid.
to receive food, to receive, like shelter and clothes, that,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do that, you can just work a job, which I guess is another form of servitude, but like capitalism, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you they're saying, why am I going to make my life less happy than if I would be single, essentially, right?
Yeah. Well,
And
and
so
lots of the
women are,
reports of happiness from current data state that
yeah,
women that are single are frequently reporting being happier than women in
yes,
relationships. Not
exactly,
unilaterally, but much more
yeah,
frequently than previously. So, as this male loneliness epidemic rises, women are getting happier, and correlation not causation, but certainly I believe related, right? And not necessarily because men are bad TM, but
mm-hmm,
because women are no longer obligated, kind of thing. And
yes,
that in and of itself, sometimes just taking advantage of the fact that you don't have to and then circling back to the fact that you want to but of your own volition, has a very
yes,
different flavor. It's very like Harry Potter or whatever. It's the difference between choosing
mm-hmm,
to walk to your own death and being chased down to your death. You die at the end either way, but walking in with your head held high of your own choice versus being dragged kicking and screaming are two very different flavors of ways to get there.
You likening marriage to somebody dying is really funny, but anyways, no, I get where you're. I
was going to Harry Potter there, but like,
yeah.
Sorry, listen, I'm new on board with the marriage thing. That's a recent development for me. I love the idea of marrying my partner that I have now, but any other partner in my previous life, that would have been death. Yeah, I would have preferred death.
Okay. The drama,
but you don't have to make that choice. You can just not date the person. That's what I chose. So like it's not all that dramatic. It's just I don't want to live that life.
Yeah, I think it's like part of the reason that like people are like, oh, women's standards are too high. Like, actually, I feel like people are saying that less. I feel like they'll say that to individual women, but they won't say that collectively. And it's like, I mean, are the standards too high, or is the bar in hell? And I think because we're seeing this regression back, like, if more and more men are being indoctrinated with like, women are supposed to serve me, women are like, I'm a human being too, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, so I recently got Jada to suggest that I should be treated like a human being, so I'm gonna go ahead and roll with that. Like, if being with a man, according to the new sexual contract, which Susan Sontag believes is just kind of a new flavored version of it, where we have to accept 70 cents on every dollar, and that's part of our sexual contract now with the patriarchy and the opposite sex, insofar as it is binary. I don't know, I kind of lost the thread there. Never mind.
Okay. I mean, yeah, and we say 70 cents, but is it, we talk about women of color and it's a different fucking number, so.
Yeah, well, and it's also, these are some hot takes. These are lukewarm takes. These are lukewarm takes.
I think these are lukewarm takes for us, Alicia. I've realized that I am a raging liberal now, so.
Okay, but no, that's only a hot take in America. Why is my camera not working? I don't understand.
All of a sudden you have disappeared.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
I don't know why that was. I didn't do anything. I didn't touch it.
I didn't change a thing.
I think it's contextual, right? Because like, I don't know, to each other, I'm just like, yeah, that's a completely reasonable take when we're having like a private conversation. I'm like, that's the right, that's correct. What you're saying is correct. And then you say that in front of like, your fucking conservative uncle, and they're just like, women should live in basements only and never see light. And you're like, whoa, okay, didn't know.
Shit.
No one's ever actually said that. I was just picking an extreme version. But like,
I know.
You just see like, oh, I really didn't think that I was thinking that far outside of any box on planet Earth. Like maybe me and Andrew Tate and me and Joe Rogan don't see eye to eye. That I'm like, sure. But those are exceptions. I truly believe that if I walk out into the world and say the things that I believe, that these are not hot takes, and then I get told that they're hot takes, and I'm just like, this is bad. If this is a hot take, that's bad.
I mean, men should be castrated. Definitely a hot take.
I don't believe that. I'm never gonna live that down.
No,
I'm never gonna live that down.
But
it shouldn't be.
No. Yes, I agree. I think we are academic liberals. We came from a very liberal country, which Canada, is like definitely like social democracy, pretty close. Democratic socialism, whatever. Anyways, and so like, yes, we're definitely further along. So like, for instance, I was just in Salt Lake City this weekend with my family, and I was definitely going to try to get my dad to watch this Manosphere documentary, because I was like, I need to see where you are on the spectrum.
Prescribed reading, she said.
Yes.
I love.
But like my sisters who what I consider to be quite progressive still use the R word, and I'm like trying to tell them like that's not acceptable. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And they're kind of, I mean, I'm definitely like one of the like spiciest liberals out there, I would say. Like, I'm definitely pretty far down that spectrum.
Yeah, I forget how black of a sheep I am when I'm surrounded by mostly gray sheep. I guess, is the thing when you go back to,
Yeah.
yeah, to get proverbial about that. Ezra Pizza believes I'm never going to live that down as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
Put
I'm
it
gonna
on
bring
my
it up
coffin.
every.
Where do you put it on? Put it on my gravestone. If you're
I'm
gonna
gonna.
burn women at
Uh,
stakes for being witches, then I'm gonna cut your balls off for being nasty. That's the
I'm.
social contract as I
There
have
you go.
it. If.
There you
But
go.
we could just do neither. That's what I'd prefer. We could do
Yeah.
neither. Just let
Yeah.
me live. Leave me alone, frankly.
Um.
Let us go to bars. Frank, you want to know what's awesome? That we went to several bars recently and didn't get harassed. That was really nice. I think it might
Yeah.
be
I think.
because we're old, but it's also because we went to the gayborhood.
Yes, I agree with both of those things. Women are exceptional in that they will sometimes mate with the creature that is most likely to kill them. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the sexual contract too. It's like we get dressed, we don't pay for dinner because we might not accidentally, we might not murder the other person on the date, right? Like,
Oh my god. Okay, so I do you guys watch those like a botanist answers botany questions from Google or whatever? It's like a wire I think it's Wired. Someone does that. It's like a YouTube thing where they're like a U.S. Historian answers questions about the Civil War, something. Anyways, this most recent one I was watching today was a self-defense expert answers self-defense questions, and all of these questions from like Twitter and Quora and stuff like that are all like the vast majority of them were women being like, is it really better to yell fire instead of rape to get more attention? Should I really walk with my keys between my fingers? Is that the most adaptive? Which is better, mace spray or mace gel? Or sorry, pepper spray or pepper gel? And like it was all just like a fucking 30-minute video of this absolutely badass woman showing how like she's like, you're gonna aim for the groin every time because it's simply just the best way to disengage if you're being attacked kind of thing. But I'm like, guys, this is a pop media video for that's on a light entertainment page, and it's mainly about women getting attacked. That's where we're at. Like it's so normalized that we're using it for light entertainment, and that didn't even make me flinch. Like that's how ingrained it is in our lives. It's like, oh yeah, the old yell fire instead of rape if you're getting raped, that old trick. We've all heard it. Like the fact that that's a thing. What are we talking about? No, sorry, I'm upset.
No. You are allowed to be upset because I think if we want to have a little bit of a full circle moment, we can talk about these issues. Like you and I are obviously using this for fodder on a Twitch stream to chat about, but
Of course, yeah.
it has a lot of cultural relevance. People are talking about it online. People are making money off of this topic.
Yeah.
People are having whole ass debates, and we can talk about it in the culture. But if we go back to adolescence, right, there are like that. Yes, okay, this was a fictional story about a 13-year-old boy killing a girl because he was red pilled, but that's not a fake story, right? Like that's a real thing that happens, that like this misogynistic rape culture leads to more harm to women, and angrier men also leads to more harm to men obviously as well. So like I mean there is going to be like physical repercussions of these things. There's going to be more women who are victims of domestic violence. There's going to be more women who are, hurt by strangers, right? That they don't know as well. So it's like,
I couldn't agree
what are we
more,
doing?
yeah.
What are we doing?
Well, and I mean, to your point, I think it's critical that we talk about it. It's amazing that there's this easily accessible video of this woman showing these self-defense techniques and saying, hey, here's why you don't want to do the keys between the knuckles thing that we all learned when we were 13 years old. Oh my God. Like, it's great that that's that easily accessible. I have always wanted to take a self-defense class, but cost, time, all of that sort of thing. So this is the next best thing. And us talking about like data and research about these sorts of things, very important. But the fact that it's something that is even still a discussion is wild to me. Like it's simply bonkers that we live in a world that just fundamentally, factually, it's so deeply ingrained in such a gendered fashion that there's even any doubt in anyone's mind that it's still women who are more disadvantaged. And this is stepping away from loneliness specifically, but like realistically, if you guys are worried about being lonely, we're worried about being dead. You know, like there's a comedian recently that was just like doing crowd work and was just like, guys, what's the worst thing that could happen to you on a like on a blind date or a first date or something like that? And they're like, I don't know, she's ugly or something like that. Like the men are just tossing out things, and even some of them were like serious things, like, oh, she could, I don't know, get super drunk and belligerent or something like that. Like reasonable concerns.
She poops her pants at the table. Something
sure. What's the worst thing that could happen? And then the girls just like takes their sweet time. The timing of the joke was amazing. Yeah. And she's like, all right, so we've heard from the men, and already the women in the crowd are fucking erupting laughing. She doesn't have to say a word because we all know the immediate answer that we had if we were like, oh, what's the worst thing that could happen to you on your first date? Oh, I get killed.
Yep.
Get dead. I got dead. Yeah. So, and that hasn't changed in X amount of years. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, that's also it. That is like regionally and culturally specific, right? Because those kind of statistics do not exist in some countries. Like, I mean, they're definitely significantly lower in like Scandinavia and places that have like a different sort of that doesn't have this, like, as I said, it all like ties in together. Like capitalism is like founded on like anti-feminist, misogynistic principles, right? Absolutely. And so that all kind of feeds. And so if we have a culture that is supporting all of us, right, semi equally, that has mat leave and pat leave and all of these things,
absolutely,
we see these kinds of things.
Is it significantly lower, or is it like on par in those countries? I'm not familiar with these. I'm not familiar with these statistics.
Let me not talk out of my ass and let me look them up.
I mean, ass talk. Let's go. What a DB said, ass debates, because you said these whack ass debates and or something like that earlier, and he was like, ass debates. Fucking mouth debates. That's 100% the case. Old Man Felonious, what were you saying was 100% the case. We were waxing poetic, gently speaking about something in a completely reasonable and calm manner. Particularly me, because you'll never catch me doing anything but the sort. Always catch me being rational, level-headed, calm, collected.
Okay. So actually...
Oh, worst case on a first date. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for clarifying that, Old Man Felonious. We appreciate it. Nordic countries generally lower homicide rates. Yeah. Okay. So lower homicide rate, but reported rape statistic is often high, partly due to broader definitions of sexual violence. Oh, I like that. That's important.
I have learned that. Yeah. That's actually... Then that is what we talk about spin and data, bro, because somebody could just be like, rape statistics are higher, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That's what social democrats will get you. That's what voting liberal will get you, is higher rapes.
Yeah.
Like, girl, yeah. So I guess we should clarify what we mean about data spin here, because, like, just to take a tiny tangent, Layla and I have spoke on stream before about how you can spin data, and the idea, I guess, in that case would be that you could do the hyperbolic, that's exactly the word I was looking for. You could do the hyperbolic version of that and say rapes are more common in Scandinavia, and maybe that's true, but how you define a rape is different, right? Like, if, you know, any sexual assault is categorized in the rape category, and that's how they're doing their statistics, whereas in the States it's only male, female, penis to vagina penetrative sex. We should also folks, if you're sensitive to this, feel free to mute or leave. Not that we want you to leave, but protect your own mental health. Counting all assaults as rape, or, you know, only true blue rape. There shouldn't be levels to this. Assault is assault. But if a statistic in America is only reported in like a kind of purity tested way where only the most extreme cases of the thing, then you could very much misrepresent that as, you're much more likely to be assaulted in Scandinavia, or you're much less likely to be assaulted in America, which just isn't reflective of the truth, right? Mm-hmm. My sensitive ears.
I was gonna say the other piece of that, like, also this is like very akin to like people being like, oh, like autism and ADHD rates have skyrocketed, there must be like a cause for that. And it's like, no, we just like know what these disorders, or back in my day we didn't have these disorders. And it's like, yeah, because we didn't know what they were, right? Like people were just sent off to an insane asylum if there was anything.
Yeah, or your uncle who was
them.
really into trains was like, I built half a wing on my house to have my model trains. And it's like, yeah, that guy was neurotypical for sure. He didn't have anything going on. Like, oh, yeah.
So
100%.
And then, and we didn't have those labels, so it was like, okay, that's why things are moving up.
I was at my doctor today talking about an ADHD diagnosis, full disclosure, which I do not have at this point, but it would not be shocking if I did have, and was talking about like how underdiagnosed it is, particularly in women. And how lots of these kind of like later manifestations are unearthed kind of thing. And it's not that they're manifesting later, it's that they're getting recognized as the disorder later, especially because so many of the disorders carry similar symptomatology or manifest in ways that can look like a different symptomatology. Like a lot of people that have bipolar 2 question mark is the one that's mainly depressive. Yeah, a lot of people that have bipolar 2 are first diagnosed with just, vanilla depression, not to diminish anybody's experience of depression. It's just as horrible.
Just the vanilla.
The vanilla depression, yeah. Instead of like, we used to call it manic depression, but now we call it bipolar. Or like BPD is frequently first diagnosed as bipolar, or lots of people that have BPD are frequently would have been previously diagnosed as bipolar, usually 1. And, all of those sorts of things lead to women being misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. So like some of the questions they asked me at the psych eval thing, like this was just a preliminary one, which is why I don't have the full diagnosis, is like, when you were a kid, did you forget like your homework stuff all the time? And I was like, yep. And that could be an artifact of having like a lack of support at home, right? I'm not saying that I did, but like in other individuals, it might not be the fault of the child having a disorder. It might be a fault of lack of supports, right?
You might be like taking care of your younger siblings or something, right?
So again, these aren't definitionally like if this then that, but these are indicators. He's like, would you forget your lunch in your locker, or a whole bunch of these things that I'm like, yes, and in absence of another explanation, again we go back to the Occam's razor, what is the most likely cause here, and it seems like an ADHD diagnosis is never forget the sprinkles.
in your future, is that what?
Yeah, I mean, they also, it's really expensive to get evaluated, like a full evaluation for ADHD, which I'm sure you're aware of because you do more human research and various other
I mean, I paid a fair amount for mine. I think.
Did you do it in Canada or down here?
Canada. I had like crappy student healthcare, but in where we are now, we have like pretty good healthcare. So Sean's was like essentially free, which was
shut up. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Old Man Felonious says vanilla with sprinkles. Note, I've had several people with bipolar in my life. I know how serious it is, but sprinkles. Yeah. I mean, it's important to acknowledge that we have a lot of lighthearted takes kind of spoken in our stream, because it's a stream, it's supposed to be fun, but all of these are legitimate concerns, and we do not angle to diminish or belittle anyone's experience. So I hope that's never what we do. If it is, you can let us know. We'll try to better. I feel like if people were feeling that, they probably would just leave.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we are psychologists by training, so I don't like we
Yeah.
don't take
Yeah.
mental health or like or neurodivergence like
Yeah.
not seriously.
I
Obviously, there's
also
yeah.
think that like there's a certain degree for me of
Mhm.
reprieve in levity about my own neurodivergence,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like talking about like, of course you're ADHD, Alicia, like girl, who were you fooling? Kind of thing is part of
Mhm.
the way that I deal with having like yet another thing wrong with me, technically. Like
The laundry list.
yeah, like okay, I'll add that. I'll add that. But
Yeah.
also you don't want to have certain formal diagnoses on record because then if certain people get access to your records and stuff like that, like there's politics in this. It's fucking scary out here, guys.
Yeah. That was actually something that my when I like was seeking my diagnosis, my psychologist said to me was that people who have ADHD are not allowed to fly planes. So if I ever, wanted to make a career change to become a pilot, I would not be able to do that if I got this diagnosis. And I was like, I think I'll be fine, but thank you for letting me know.
That's wild. Is that true in all of is that is that true?
I think so. I think it's like a FAA regulation.
I have to report this to some people immediately. That this is not report people. I have to tell some people in my life that are very interested in aviation that they gotta keep it on the DL about that attention span.
Oh shit. Okay. That's
That's funny.
crazy. That's so crazy.
That's a really interesting fact. Okay, there's very few minutes left. I did look up some research and recent research backed things that you can do that can improve
Nice.
or ease loneliness. So I want to spit a couple of those at us, at our listeners slash viewers. So let's just go through them. Okay, music, particularly upbeat folk music, does not have to have lyrics. As long as it's not depressing music, it seems to do the trick. Just straight up listening to music, people that walk in at a certain level of loneliness will walk out from a session feeling less lonely.
Sea shanties, probably, because that's
Sea
supposed to be specifically
shanties,
cool. Yeah,
a
let's do
pirate's
it.
life for me. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Basically, it's anything that kind of gives. I think it was higher BPM. Definitely has something to do with it. But particularly stuff that evokes imagery, which is I think why this study cited that folk music specifically was really good because it evokes like, dancing around fiddle stuff, like community. It evokes images of community, which in and of itself can alleviate loneliness. Of course, none of these things are a substitute for actual human interaction, especially meaningful human interaction.
Yeah.
But in harm reduction, in absence of the true antidote to the syndrome, we will reach for these other things to help bolster us or strengthen us to get there better. Improved sleep. So this will be an effect that is unsurprising for most of us. Better sleep helps most things. It's a particularly strong effect in younger adults, which I think is interesting. I think just having more sleep is better in general. When you're a teenager, you need so much more sleep than you do as you age, but good sleep is good for everybody. Reading fiction. It's similar to the music one. So this is linked to reduced stress, enhanced empathy, because it's basically active perspective taking when you're doing fiction, particularly if it's first person narrated, then you're kind of forced into a perspective taking because you're seeing through the eyes of whatever character, right? And there is some evidence that it can change brain activity that's related to social cognition. I did not get into the meat and potatoes of that particular study because this was actually not a published study yet. This was something that was presented at a academic conference, so it was not under peer review. But there are supporting data that exist around that are things like, book clubs and fantasy readers tend to have lower rates of loneliness reported. But again, that's correlational. So grain of salt, but it does seem to help. And it also helps with like memory and stress and cognition, and particularly in older adults will help lower risk of dementia and cognitive decline. Face-to-face interaction, no surprise. But the thing that was interesting here was that this was a study that came after the pandemic, and they were looking into this kind of take that a lot of people were having, that having a video call is better than just emailing or texting or whatever. But it actually appears that that's not the case, that digital text-based communication, whether it's email, WhatsApp, or texting, was meaningfully associated with improved mental health, and that both face-to-face and digital communication were basically equally bolstering compared to not doing any communication at all. So it really doesn't matter the flavor, and it doesn't need to be a video call. That doesn't seem to have any additive effect. It's more about the amount or the engaging with an interaction. And of course, face-to-face, literal face-to-face beats all of that. And importantly, it doesn't need to be a deep, meaningful face-to-face. It can just be seeing other people. It can be going to the movies. Like, you don't have to go and have, heart to heart with your best friend. You can go to a coffee shop, and that will give better results than the text-based or the video-based interventions, which of course are then better than no intervention at all. So I thought that was interesting, because I would have thought that the video would be better. And people said, oh, you get visual cues and all of this sort of stuff. But it turns out that the lack of eye contact was apparently one of the things, because you can't make, unless you stare at your camera, which you then can't look at the other person's video feed. If you're staring at your camera, you necessarily cannot make eye contact in video chat, which you can do if you're just at the grocery store. Even if you don't say shit to your cashier, if you make eye contact with them, which you almost certainly will, that will give you more of a social hit than digital communication. It's crazy. Yeah.
That's so interesting, actually. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like, if you want to check in on somebody, a text is enough, right? But at the same time, it's like, if you're feeling lonely, you don't have to, you could just also go somewhere face to face and it would still work for you, right? So
yeah.
Those are great stats to have.
Yeah. Another thing that was interesting, that's my last major one. I did have more, but it's a lot more brain science-y and that sort of thing. So maybe we can do another episode at a later time. But the idea that the more friends, the better is not true, that 5 is the critical max, and that there are no additional benefits for having more than 5. So particularly in adolescence, but this does hold true across, I think their sample was 3,000 people up to age 60 something, particularly for adolescents, but across their whole sample, that increasing the number of close friends beyond around 5 was no longer associated with better mental health outcomes. And they also observed differences in cortical areas and opioid receptors and all of these amazing things in your brain that were associated with having more friends from 1 to 5, from 0 to 5, that it's proportional ranked increase, but after 5 it plateaus.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So fewer closer is better. Apparently.
Nice. I mean, I'm trying to also think of any adult that has more than 5 friends, or you maybe include siblings and friends too, if you have a good relationship, that you talk to on a regular basis. I'm there's not very many.
Yeah. The other thing that this study talked about was how childhood friendship can affect you later on in life, and how much this, it was linked to this crystallized intelligence that we talked about last week, and that you actually get better crystallized intelligence and lower rates of ADHD symptoms in children that go on later in life, kind of thing, if the child had meaningful close friends in their childhood. So if you have like an isolated kid, which is depressing as adults because we can't do anything, but
Yeah.
if we're all out there maybe trying to impact children's lives and stuff like that,
Yeah.
make sure
I
those guys have friends.
I would also say that that might be that could be like, so we're talking about the friends thing. It might be the opposite direction, that relationship, right? Because people
Mm-hmm.
with ADHD, like, so we're talking about loneliness, often like they don't, there's this thing of like they don't
Yes.
miss people because it's like this, like they lacked object permanence
Mm-hmm.
essentially. We lacked object permanence.
Yes.
And then so then you don't really like build these long, like you are in class with somebody in kindergarten, you're not going to like maintain that friendship per
Right.
se.
Yeah.
And so that might be like a different direction, but
So
anyways, that's just
they talked about basically both having too few and having too many. So again, below and above this critical mass of 5 were associated with higher levels of ADHD symptoms and lower crystallized intelligence at a 2-year later mark. And then downstream they had like less direct measures kind of thing, but this was like a
yeah.
repeated longitudinal inventory kind of thing where they were able to get those same individuals. And the problem that I have with that is kind of, I think what you're alluding to is chicken egg. Like, is it,
Yeah.
do they have fewer friends because they're already have lower crystallized intelligence? But I guess the longitudinal design does try and control for that because you can see that they do have more. But maybe it's an incubation effect, right? Like we don't know
Yeah.
that wasn't going to happen anyways, and that's impossible to tell
Yeah.
in that nature of that study. So yeah, so those are the things that I found out.
Those are great things.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, as always, we're ending on a everything's a gray area sort of message, right? But also with some hope. I love that you were
Yeah.
like, here's something that might be useful, which I appreciate.
Oh, I totally missed that chat was active. I'm so sorry. Discordianism was right. The law of fives is a core principle of a happy life. I didn't know that was already a well-known phenomena. Old man Felonius, thank you for sharing that. You can't. Oh, this is crazy. On
Yeah, the
ADHD,
ADHD medication.
which is hysterical because they used to give essentially Ritalin to pilots.
Yeah, literally.
Like turbo
Let me.
Ritalin, meth, frankly.
Yeah, I know. I want like long haul truckers also use uppers like meth. Just
Yeah,
wait,
well, they use methylphenidate now. Like that's an
Yeah.
actual thing that they do. But anyways, shall we choose a little raid target
Yeah,
and blast
I was gonna
on out of here?
Yeah, I saw paleontologizing is on,
Oh,
which might be
girl.
fun. They have like 200 viewers though right now, and I was like, maybe we can. There's some other science streamers that have we can maybe.
Lots of my science stream folks are daytime streamers that I know, other than like our
Yeah.
usual targets. So let's just go
So
to Twitchy and see what's.
Nerdarino, Astrocanuck, and Science are all on.
Okay, we've rated all of them recently, but that doesn't mean we can't rate them again. They are favorites for a reason. It's worth checking if we are considering science to make sure that they don't have one of their guests on, because they don't interrupt guest kind of things for that. So we should check if we're going to do them. But we could do paleontologizing. Let's just make sure they're not in the middle of something particularly.
Science does not have a guest on, but we
Okay,
could
good.
do. We haven't done paleontologizing in like
Yeah,
since
literal
we've come
years. They
back,
probably
so
won't even recognize us.
yeah.
Yes, let's. Yeah, if y'all can stick around for the raid, that would be great. We're gonna bring you over to paleontologizing, which is Dr. Danny Anduza, I want to say is his last name, and he is a card-carrying paleontologist. Goes on digs and like he's a full-time streamer. He'll take his stream on digs and stuff like that, and is wicked smart. So if you're into science here on Twitch, that's a great community to get to know. I think that he streams daily. So yeah, cool. Fossil science and fossil news. Who knew that there was fossil news? Okay, let me just get this ready. Alicia, do you know what buttons to press at all? No, girl. No, girl, you do not. Oh. Okay.
/ raid.
Yeah, it's what fucking screen I type it into, and I have like 9 million tabs open. So here we go. Raid
Just type it into your
channel.
chat.
Well, you can also do it this way. There we go. Paleontologizing. All right. I'm ready to raid. If we're going to say another sign of ADHD, you want to know what? You're going on the list, and I don't even have to say what list. On it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for chatting. And we will see you guys next week. This has been Neuralicia.
And Layla showed for Vulgar Science. Let's
Go out there, make some friends. No more than 5, though. All right. See y'all right now.
Yeah.
I
just did it. I just hit raid and it didn't. Why?
It is not working. It's not.
It says you're raiding, but it's not saying I'm raiding.
Yeah, every single time. Okay, I'm doing